You have to look at these numbers. If you put $1,000 in your traditional savings account, which has a national average rate of 0.4%, in a year, that $1,000 would get you $4. Put the same $1,000 in a high yield savings account, and let's just say it's at 3% APY. 3% is very common now. In a year, that same $1,000 would get you $33. Chicken change. How about in 3 years? In your traditional savings account, it would give you a good $12. In a high yield savings account, $102. If we push it out to 5 years in your traditional savings account, now gets you $20. In a high yield savings account, $176. Need I say more? Here are high yield savings account. I will start off with banks you are familiar with, and then list of banks you probably not familiar with, you haven't heard of, and then things you should know. These are really critical information you should know if you're considering moving any money to a high yield savings account. If at any point you're ready to click up, just move on, fast forward. It's all timeline below. Move on to the critical information that you should know. And remember, this is your money, not my money, right? So whatever information you get from here, do your research before you proceed. I just give you the info, you do your research, all right? If you don't know me, my name is Loveth. This is Money Conversations, where we know wealth is not a flex. Management is. If you get any information, which by now you already have, then go ahead and give me the thumbs up. And if you decide, you know what, you want a lot more of these videos and a lot more of my face, then subscribe because I am trying to grow this channel. All right, let's get into it. Starting with Capital One, we all know Capital One. They have a high yield savings account with an APY of 3.4%. APY is the same as your interest rate, but it's interest rate paid to you, not the other way around that you're used to with your credit cards, right? For the sake of this video, I will use that word interchangeably. I will say APY or interest rate, same diff, right? All right. So there are no minimum balance required. There are no monthly fees. When it comes to depositing money, you can do that via check. So you can take a picture of your check with the mobile app, and that's how you get money in. You can also do wires, wire transfers, and ACH. Something you're going to realize is a lot of these high yield savings accounts are online banks, 100% online banks without physical stores, which is how you end up getting those high rates, is because they've eliminated the cost of running a physical store and transferred that money that it would have spent on running a store to giving you a higher rate. American Express also has a high yield savings account with a rate of APY of 3.3% and zero minimum balance required. They have 24/7 customer service. When you're working with this online accounts, you do want to know you can get hold of someone when you need someone, whenever you need someone. American Express has that covered, 24/7 customer service. Synchrony high yield savings. If you have any store cards, chances are they are being serviced by Synchrony Bank. Synchrony Bank has been around for a long time. Their high yield savings account has an APY of 3.65%, no minimum balance required, no monthly fees. Do you know Cash App has a high yield savings account? They do. So if you use Cash App regularly, you have money sitting in there, you probably want to listen to this. Now they have some requirement, and we'll discuss that. But here are the numbers. It has a APY of 3.25%. There are no fees, no minimum balance required. It is FDIC insured, and you can move money from your regular, cash balance to that high yield savings account and vice versa. So you have easy movement of money if you already use Cash App. Now, here are the requirements. You must spend $500 with the Cash App monthly or deposit $300 in paychecks every month. This is very easy to meet. Not the $500 spending one. Don't tell me how much to spend. But you can have $300 of your paycheck sent to that account. It could be a good way to save, even if you make that your savings every single month. But if you use Cash App quite often and you use up to 500, what the heck are you using Cash App for that you're spending 500 every single month? What kind of lifestyle are you people living? Oh, let me not use my boring stay-at-home mom lifestyle. Moving on to the next bank, Citibank Platinum Savings. You may or may not be familiar with Citibank. Their high yield savings account has up to 3.75% APY. So they have a tiered system. If you keep a balance of 5,000 or more, you get the high interest rate of 3.75%. Anything less than that, anything less than $5,000, you only get 0.25%. Okay, so this is based on how much you have to leave there. There are no monthly fees. And if you want to make extra money, if you deposit $150,000, you get a bonus of $300. Deposit $50,000, you have a bonus of $300 because if you have 50K, that $300 is a big deal. All right, moving on to the next bank, SoFi Bank or Sophie, depending on how you pronounce them. They, in my opinion, are one of the OGs of 100% online banking. They also have a high yield savings account. They do have requirements, but they are great for savings because you can actually section out your savings into buckets. So if you wanted $10 to go into your new car bucket and $5 into your summer vacation bucket, you can do that. And they also let you round up your purchases or purchases you make with your debit card and save the difference in your savings account. So they are great for savings, but their account has requirement. You must have a checking account that has a direct deposit. You could always just split your direct deposit if possible, have your employer send some of it to your SoFi account if you want to go with them. Like I said, it has 4% APY. There are no fees, no minimum deposit required. So if your sole purpose is to save, this is a great one because they've also been around for decades. You're familiar with the name. These are all things to consider. All right, now let's move on to banks. Chances are you haven't heard of, but they have great rates. A lot of them have 4%, starting with Bread Savings. Bread, say high yield savings account is with Bread Financial. Has an APY of 4.25%, $100 minimum deposit required. They do charge $5 for paper statement. Does anyone use paper statements? Although with the way the world is going though, I think we should all be saving our statements, because I just have this feeling that one of these days something's going to crash and then no one can tell how much you have. That's just a feeling I have. Just extra points for getting to this point. So hit the like button just for that info. They are FDIC insured. Now, these guys do not have any ATM access, i.e., they don't have any ATMs that you could go to or a bank with an ATM that they partner with. So the only way to access your money or to put money in would be through ACH, through wire transfers. Okay. Everbank Performance Savings has a 4.05 APY, no minimum balance required, no monthly fees. They do have branches in 3 states, of course, the usual Florida, California, New York, because who the heck is Nebraska? You can only open an account online, which I mean, with all these banks being 100% online, you would be opening accounts online. You can be reimbursed for ATM fees up to $15 a month. It gets even better. If you keep a minimum of $5,000 in your account, then you have unlimited reimbursement of ATM fees. So, if you've deposited a substantial amount in your account, then hey, they'll gladly give you back whatever fee. I think that's wonderful customer service. Genius Savings. This is with Genius Bank. It's a digital banking division of SMBC Manu Bank. I know you're like, oh yeah, that one. SMBC Manu Bank is a California commercial bank. This is their online portion of the bank. There are no minimum opening balance. There are no monthly fees. An APY of 4.2%. I think that's probably the highest we've had so far. No ATM access or branch or physical branch, but they have 24/7 customer service and you can do your money transfers via ACH wire transfers. Most of these banks, being online banks, would have their own app, and that's how you access funds or transfer funds. Most of these banks assume, or they're called savings account, not checking accounts. So they expect you're not going to need money every single day. And so you plan ahead. And that's why I still leave some money in my traditional savings account because just in case I need a substantial amount of money right away, right? If I need $1,000 right away, I need to be able to get hold of that and not have to wait 3 business days so I can move money from my savings to my checking, right? So Genius Savings doesn't even have a checking account. It is purely savings. So planning ahead would be one of the things you have to do when it comes to high yield savings account, which we'll discuss towards the end of the video as part of the critical information you should know before you get involved with high yield savings accounts. Peak Bank, not to be confused with Peak Milk, it has a high yield savings account called the Envision High Yield Savings. It has up to 4.20 APY for new accounts, but you must open up the account with at least $100. So they do have a minimum balance required. There are zero monthly fees, and you can access funds through online transfer, ACH, wire transfers. VO Online Bank Savings Account has an APY of 4.16%. Do you see a common thread here? These banks you've barely heard of, or this bank you've never heard of with funny names, tend to have higher rates. Most of them are in the fours. This is their competitive advantage. They give you a higher APY. 4.1% APY with zero minimum balance required and no monthly fees. High yield savings accounts are very attractive because of the numbers, the rates. But there are certain things you have to keep in mind. It's all good until you lose your money, right? So you always want to think of the worst case scenario before you jump into anything. So before you open a high yield savings account, the very first thing you always want to check for is to see if they are FDIC insured or NCUA. Pretty much meaning the government will insure up to $250,000. Should the bank lose your money, the government is good for it for up to $250,000. Now, remember, it's a bank. So just because the bank has FDIC insurance on some accounts does not mean all accounts are FDIC insured. So when you go online, you want to make sure that that account is FDIC insured. Also with high yield savings account, they're mostly online, 100% online, which means you can't just walk into the bank to withdraw money because something came up and you need the money right away, or there are issues and you need to have someone sort this thing out. You're going to be working with phone calls because we all love calling customer service. You're going to be working with phone calls and messaging apps, right? With that in mind, you want to be mindful of what you leave in the account, what you need those funds for. My advice is to keep some of your savings in your traditional savings account so that should anything come up and you need a substantial amount of money, you can access that while working on accessing the rest from the high yield savings account. You also want to read up with any of these accounts before you open them. You want to read up how long it will take to have money reflect on the account and how long it will take to get money out of the account. So when you do your check deposits or your whatever ACH wire transfer, it does take time. It takes days, and not all banks are equal. So you want to be mindful of how many days it will take that account to have the money reflect in your savings account, in your high yield savings account. And when it's time to take money out and you initiate the wire transfer, how long will it take them to have the money transferred to wherever you're transferring it to? A key information, this should probably be the first information, is that these rates are not fixed. None of them have fixed rates, which means these rates can change at any point, especially if the Feds should reduce rates, then these rates are very likely to change. So just because you started off at 4% or at 3% does not mean that in the entire 3 years or 5 years that you leave money in there, it would remain at 3%. So it's actually a good thing to maybe once a year, if you're not the type to, pay attention to money like that, you like to just set it and forget it. Well, make it a habit that once a year you take a look at these accounts, and maybe even shop around. Why not? It's not that hard. Like it's hard, shop around. You may be okay with a decrease down to 2% compared to traditional savings. Something I have noticed though is they pretty much stay about the same. All the online high yield savings account, they pretty much stay about the same. I guess to remain competitive. So if it goes down to 2%, chances are all of them are at 2%. Keep in mind when you're opening a high yield savings account, make sure the rate you're getting is not just an introductory rate, like a promotional rate. I wouldn't do that. I mean, that's just me. I like to know what the rate is going to be on average, all things being equal. Yes, it's not fixed, but all things being equal. Some banks may or may not have customer service. Some may require that you do everything via the mobile app, the chat. So that's something to look out for when you're deciding what accounts to go with or what banks to go with. So it's not just about having a high rate. You also want to consider all the services. Also, with high yield savings accounts, ATM access may be limited. Some may have a variety of ATM services or ATMs that they work with that they've partnered with. And so you can easily access your funds via ATM. And some may not even have that option. I think one of the banks did not. So that's another criteria to pay attention to. Remember, the interest, the gains, they are taxable. You probably are not aware of this because your traditional bank was giving you nothing, so you never had to worry about this. But once you start making substantial amount of money in interest, in gains, it is taxable. Now, here's a major one I do want to address, because whenever we talk about gaining all this interest, your mind quickly goes to making this an investment. If I put in X amount of money, then it will yield me this amount. Listen, you can get more money going via your traditional investment, via the stock market. You don't want to treat a high yield savings account as an investment. It is an investment, i.e., your money is bringing you money, but do not treat it as an investment. See it solely as what you want it to be, which is the savings. And then your savings works for you, really is beating inflation, given how high inflation is now, right? Let your investments be the stock market and all the other investment channels. That is it, folks. It would be a shame not to take advantage of this account while we have this rates. Who knows what the Feds are going to do this year? Take down the rates and then you lose this high interest account. But remember, do due diligence. I'm just a regular person on YouTube. It is your money, not mine. So do your due diligence. All right. You know what to do. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.